Welcome to our all-new series, The Carnivore Kitchen, where we will indulge you in amazing meals and delicacies that are none other than carnivore. Where our presenter is none other than Shanna Richardson, owner and operator of the Lion's Share Meal Prep and Catering Company. I'm your host, Dr. Victoria Munoz. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Stay tuned. In the spirit of remaining carnivore, today Shannon is going to show us how to make meatloaf with complete carnivore ingredients.
Okay, so as she said, we're going to make meatloaf. Well, to start off our carnivore meatloaf right here, I have already put in here 1 cup of our pork panko, and I've added a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup, of milk, whole milk to this, and I've stirred it up and I've allowed it to do what is called bloom or soak through and get it to kind of bloom and get ready for the it'll basically add the moisture content for our meat, but I wanted to do it ahead of time to get that soak nice and through. And as you can tell, it's soaked and it's ready to go. It's kind of got a little bit of a slappy texture to it. So next thing that I like to do to this is I like to add all of my seasonings to this and then kind of sniff. Some people can eat raw hamburger. I cannot. I cannot. So I like to sniff through and just kind of get a feel for maybe I might need a little bit more seasoning into the meat. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some garlic, which is about a teaspoon. Actually, it's half a tablespoon. So that's actually better. Half a tablespoon. We're just going to add that. It looks the same as the panko. And then I'm going to also add some onion as well. Usually I tell people to measure with their heart. So if it's not good enough for you, you can add extra or take away or omit any of these spices as you'd like. Some people can be more strict on carnivore. Others are not. It just depends on what it is that you can tolerate. I can tolerate spice. So I'm going to also go with, yeah, that was smart. So we're just going to measure with my heart. It'll probably be a half a tablespoon. Hands here of that's more like a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, just a bunch of dried herbs, parsley, oregano. What do they have in here? Parsley, oregano, something like that, and some marjoram, I believe. And then we're going to add just a little touch of pepper. Not overly tolerant of pepper, but a little bit helps. Always helps to season. And then just a little bit of salt as well, like maybe half a teaspoon. You don't want it to be too terribly salty. Then the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is add a 1/3 cup of mozzarella. That's going to help to add to the moisture content as well of our breadcrumbs that we have here, our breadcrumbs. And then also a 1/3 of a cup of Parmigiano Reggiano. And it's shredded, of course, freshly shredded. I do not do any of the bagged kind. It tends to have potato starch or some sort of cellulose in it, and that agitates my digestion, so I don't do that. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix it up here, just like I am right here, just to kind of get it all incorporated. I like to do that. And then the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is add not 1, but 2 eggs, 2 whole eggs. 1 and 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that together as well. Now, in prep for this, I tend to let the eggs come to room temperature. I find that the incorporation of the ingredients tends to be a little easier and better. I also am mixing all these ingredients together because I don't know if anybody is really aware, but when you have hamburger and pork and you're mixing them together, as I do here with a 1 to 1/2 mix, if you overmix it, it gets very, very tough and it's hard to chew. And in the spirit of making, I want to say, prison meatloaf, where it's nice and wonderful and soft and pillowy, I want to mix these ingredients right now, and then I want to not overwork the meat. All right, so in my trusty handy dandy Ziploc baggie here, I have approximately 1 pound of 80/20 ground beef, and then I also have 8 ounces of just your regular, everyday, run-of-the-mill ground pork. I'm just going to go ahead and add this to the mix. So pork is right here. Just going to go ahead and pop it in. Doesn't have to be pretty. I like doing this though because it'll give a better randomization and mix of the different meats. And I've got my hands. And then we'll just add in the hamburger. Same thing, just kind of grind it all up and move it around. Now, there's 2 camps. There's Team Spatula, and then there's Team's Hands. I'm really Team Hands, but for the sake of both people, I'm going to do a little bit of spatula, and then I'll do a little bit of hands. I like to put my hands on my food all the time. So I pretty much have just gotten the spatula where it doesn't have all of the breading on it anymore, the panko breadcrumbs on there anymore. So bye-bye spatula, in goes hands. And I just want to incorporate it the best that I can. And as you can tell, there's a lot of breadcrumb or panko or pork breadcrumb ratio to this meat. And I want that. I want it to be moist. I want it to be pillowy. And I want it to be well incorporated. So I'm mushing a little bit as I go. However, I am also trying to mix in every single ounce and every single bit of that breadcrumb mixture. Now, of course, this is also to preference. You may like a little bit of a drier meatloaf. You also might like more or less of an incorporated meatloaf. I generally like it pretty well uniformed. That's all right if it's not. Sometimes it's good for a little bit of randomness. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and kind of try and make it into more of almost like a loaf, obviously, since it's bread loaf. I'm going to kind of spin it on the side of this bowl and get it in there. And oh, by the way, just in case I haven't already told you, which I know I haven't, this will go into an oven that has been preheated at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. No, I didn't tell you that ahead of time. So, and then we're going to take our little meatloaf here, if I can get it out. She comes just like that, and we're going to gently, like a little baby, put her to sleep. Pop her in there. You can kind of shape her around and move around a little bit. I prefer to put it on aluminum foil in my pan. Just it helps to add for cleanup. You can do that if you'd like. You don't have to do that if you don't like. It's up to you. And then I just want to make sure that she's pretty well rounded. Her sides aren't necessarily touching, but she's got a pretty good general loaf look to her. All right, Betty. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pop her in the oven here. But first I'm going to wash my hands and clean up a little so I don't cross-contaminate the oven. Washed my hands. Haven't fully dried them though. Now that I've washed my hands, I'm going to go ahead and take this into our oven that has been preheated to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to put it in here. Now, I usually start at about 40 minutes. That's 40 minutes, so that I can kind of test the waters with it. You want to be able to pierce it with a temperature gauge or a thermometer if you happen to have one, and you want it to be anywhere between 135 and 155 degrees Fahrenheit on the inside. Make sure that when you pierce it with your probe, that you're not going all the way down to the bottom and hitting the bottom of the pan, because then that'll also affect the temperature of the meatloaf and what it reads. So, well, it won't affect the temperature of the meatloaf. My mistake. it'll affect the temperature reading, which will give you false positive as far as whether or not it's high enough in temperature or not. So we'll go ahead and we'll set that up at 40 minutes for now, and we'll go ahead and we'll check it at 40 minutes. If 40 minutes is good enough, then we'll pop it out. If not, we will go ahead and continue to cook it until it does have that temperature of at least 135. Once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and broil the top of it for approximately 5 to 7 minutes at 450 to 500 degrees. It's your preference or choice. I choose 450 so that it doesn't burn and I don't accidentally forget and cremate it. All right, we've gone ahead and we waited the recommended 40 minutes, and now we're going to go ahead and pull it from the oven. And as you can tell, she looks pretty darn lovely, as can be. Hopefully, so hopefully she's going to be nice and warm. Go ahead and let her sit. We're going to go ahead and let her sit for a couple of minutes out here. We want her to rest, so probably maybe 5 to 7 minutes at the most. And then we'll go ahead, we'll slice into her. That way we can let the juices redistribute and everything can be nice and moist and tender on the inside. And then we'll go ahead and slice her up, plate her up, and then we'll give her a taste. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've plated up 2 pieces of this lovely, succulent, mouth-watering carnivore meatloaf. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my little personal sauce to this. It's my own version of brown gravy, and this will be on another episode coming up here real soon. But for now, I'm just going to add it so that we have a little bit goodness, gracious num-nums to it. Nice and thick, nice and flavorful, and glistening. Yeah. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and test that sucker on out.
As with every episode, the moment I've been waiting for, and we're going to try this amazing meatloaf. It smells good. I haven't tried it yet, so drum roll.
Get in on that. Get in on some of that.
Oh boy.
There you go.
You don't know what you're missing.
Not too bad at all. I'm going to stir a little bit of that end piece.
Amazing, amazing. You should call this Amazeballs meatloaf.
Amazeballs protein meatloaf or something. Pretty good. It is enjoyable. And
all right,
satisfying.
guys, so if you are interested in having meatloaf without all the other additives that are not necessarily carnivore, this is the deal right here.
Pretty good.
And like Shannon said, in an upcoming episode, she's going to make the sauce and prepare that for you so that you know exactly how to make this meal.
Perfect. Yep.
And join us next time for another episode of the Carnivore Kitchen. I'm Dr. Victoria Munoz. This is Shannon, and we'll see you next time. In the spirit of remaining carnivore, carnivore?
Carney.
Carnies?
I was going to say, it's Carney Kitchen. I mean, spirited lady here.
Corny.
Take one.
All right, take 2.
Oh, yeah.
In the spirit of remaining carnivore, today Shannon is going to show us how to make meatloaf with absolutely... Take 3.
Yeah, okay. Low to no carb. Low to no carb.
Okay.
Cheese, because I do have cheese. So it's a carb or 2.
Yeah, okay. In the spirit of remaining carnivore, in the spirit of... Does that sound right? Spirit of staying remaining carnivore.
Yeah,
spirit of,
that's okay.